Hello, my name is Max.
And I am Gerson.
And our team's name is
Bambini de la Ciencia.
Our coach's name is Aida Torres.
And we are representing the Preparatoria 13 on the 4th edition of the chemistry tournament. Flying has always been a dream for the humanity, and jetpack is one of the most effective ways that we have to achieve that goal.
We know that there are some challenges like finding an appropriate fuel or a safe design for human use.
So, for the fuel we decided that the best option was the hydrogen peroxide. That's because it's the composition. With the time it releases an oxygen and only the water remains. But this decomposition takes a long time, so for accelerated we decided to use the potassium permanganate.
If we use potassium permanganate, it will provoke a redox and exothermic reaction, since potassium permanganate acts as an oxidizing agent, decomposing hydrogen peroxide into oxygen and water. This reaction will give off a lot of oxygen and water vapor. This mixture of gases will be the propellant of the jetpack.
So, for the design we decided to follow the same principle as a rocket. It will have a storage tank made of stainless steel, where the hydrogen peroxide will be pumped into the combustion chamber.
In the combustion chamber, it will be mixed with the potassium permanganate to initiate the reaction that will produce a high temperature steam and oxygen gas.
Thanks.
It is important to notice that hydrogen peroxide is extremely corrosive and can cause chemical burns if it comes in contact with skin or ice.
Therefore, safety measures such as protective clothing or eye protection must be necessary for anyone operating the jetpack.
The easiest and safest way to use hydrogen peroxide as jetpack fuel is to use a pre-packaged stabilized formation of hydrogen peroxide with a low concentration, typically 30% or less.
This type of hydrogen peroxide is commonly used in various industrial and commercial applications, including rocketry, and is less reactive and corrosive than higher concentrations.
When using hydrogen peroxide as jetpack fuel, it is important to follow proper safety procedures, including wearing appropriate personal protective equipment such as gloves, goggles, and a respirator, and handling the fuel in a well-ventilated area.
The use of hydrogen peroxide as a jetpack fuel can have environmental impacts. As the combustion of hydrogen peroxide produces water vapor and oxygen gas, it can also produce other emissions depending on the combustion process and the presence of impurities in the fuel. It is important to notice that hydrogen peroxide is a hazardous material, and using it as a jetpack fuel should only be attempted by an experienced professional with the necessary knowledge. Also, the hydrogen peroxide as a jetpack fuel can have environmental impacts, and if we want to do it in the most friendly way for the environment, it is important to follow the best practices for handling and disposing of the fuel. Here are some recommendations.
Some of the recommendations are: use a low concentration, stabilized formulation of hydrogen peroxide to minimize the environmental impact of the fuel. Lower concentration of hydrogen peroxide are less reactive and corrosive than higher concentration and less likely to cause environmental harm. Choose a combustion system. It is a well-designed and tested to minimize emissions. Avoid spilling and leaking it by handling the fuel carefully. Also use well-designed fuel storage and delivery system. Spills and leaks can cause environmental harm and can be also hazardous to people and animals. Dispose of used fuel and any other waste materials according to local regulations and the best practice for hazardous waste disposal. It can include working with a licensed hazardous waste disposal service to ensure that all materials are handled and disposed of properly.
By following these practices, it is possible to use hydrogen peroxide as jetpack fuel in a way that minimizes the environmental impact of the fuel and ensures the safety of people and the environment. It is important to also follow all applicable regulations and obtain any necessary permits or license before using hydrogen peroxide as jetpack fuel.